My name is Peter Hirschman. I'm the game director on Medal of Honor Above and Beyond.
So, Medal of Honor Above and Beyond was announced today during the Oculus keynote. How long have you folks at Respawn been working on this?
We've been working on it for 2.5 years, and actually a little longer than that, but the Oculus partnership kicked off about 2.5 years ago.
You've been watching things evolve for that 2.5 years. A lot of things have changed hardware-wise. So, were there times where you're like, okay, now's the time, or were you like, oh god, we have to go back to the drawing board now the Quest is out, or?
No, we went all in 2.5 years ago, and something that they talked about at the keynote today, which I think is almost underreported. I think Oculus has such amazing foresight into how they plan their hardware. They're putting a lot of effort into making sure the content that's been built before and the content that's being built now will have a really long, part of the expression, half-life long into the future. We saw the Rift S come out in the middle of our development, and we didn't have to miss a beat. Everything just moves beautifully over to the S. Same controllers, everything under the hood's the same. It just looks even better through the Rift S headset. Look, we went all in 2.5 years ago. I mean, we knew that we wanted to support the min spec of the Rift. So if you've got a really nice gaming PC and you've got the headset, you can play the game. We're really excited about the cable that they announced today. Anyone who's got a Quest will be able to plug into their gaming PC and access all that Rift content. I think that's fantastic for everyone. And it just, again, shows you that, I'll just put it this way, that stuff doesn't happen by accident, and Oculus is a great partner to content creators because they're always thinking about that stuff and making sure the stuff you're making is getting into as many hands as possible.
One thing that Respawn is very known for, first-person shooters, gunplay is always very tight in the Titanfall series and Apex Legends, which is really big right now. The gunplay in Medal of Honor in VR is a little different. You have to factor in hand presence. Can you talk about the work that you folks did to figure out how to make it still feel fun and enjoyable while also making it more immersive and realistic?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. The immersiveness makes it more fun, and it's finding that sweet spot that it feels authentic, but it's fun and not a burden to the player. Prime example of that is, pulling the weapon off your body. You keep your pistol in your holster, you keep a rifle or shotgun over your shoulder, grenades are on your chest. They're physically stored there in VR, which is great. And so if you come around a corner and there's a bad guy Nazi coming at you, all the Nazis are bad guys. You have a Nazi coming at you and you pull out your Colt 45 and shoot down range. That's a really great, it's a super fun moment. What's not so fun is trying to get the gun back in the holster. So when you want to switch weapons, all you do is you just let go, it lerps back, and then you can pick the next one. And that's us looking for that, again, that sweet spot of making it feel authentic, but not burdening the player with stuff that starts to not be fun, for lack of a better way of describing it. We spent more time on the weapons than I did coming up with a very articulate answer to your excellent question. But as far as the weapon handling, when you empty a clip or a magazine, pulling that out, putting a fresh one in, then charging the weapon, that, again, finding that sweet spot of making that immersive, but we have found that players, that's one of their favorite things in their game, because it makes you feel like you're actually back there in World War II. I mean, we always look at the headset as sort of a time machine. And it helps, each weapon has its own sort of character sheet. Each weapon is a little different. And I think one of the best things about it is it helps tell the story of small arms combat in World War II. And, when you're firing the Thompson, again, eject the clip, or eject the magazine, put a new one, charge it. It's a 3-step process. When you're using your M1 Garand, bang, 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 again at that bad guy Nazi. When your clip is empty, it auto-ejects with that famous ping, and all you got to do is slap a new one in, and that's why our infantry loved it. This really great, super accurate semi-automatic rifle that when you were done, it ejected it on its own. All you had to do was slap a new one in, and it was good to go. You didn't have to charge it. So you learn through action, oh wow, this is why the M1 Garand was so great. In World War II, the Germans started picking up on, oh, when I hear that ping, that means the guy shooting at me is out of bullets. That's when I'm going to jump up and come at him. And so that created a whole interesting dynamic. So our AI has hooks in it that when the AI Germans hear that ping, they'll pop out of cover and come at you. And so you got to be prepared. And so those sorts of things, again, by putting that effort into making sure each weapon has sort of its own character sheet profile and its own set of mechanics, we can put stuff like that in there, and it adds to the immersion factor by a factor of 100.
And a lot of your games are, there's run and gun, there's regenerative health and things. This is a game that does not have regenerative health. You have to pull out a syringe, you have to stab yourself in the belly. How are you able to keep the pace, given the, when reloading is just hit the X button, whereas reloading in this game is maybe a 3-step process. How did you keep the pace still fast and fun while allowing for that realism?
Well, anyone who's spent any time in the games industry has spent countless hours trying to map natural human movement to a game controller, and things like lean or duck, even taking cover. Whole genres are built around taking cover, right? In VR, you know how you lean? You lean, right? How you duck? You duck. How you take cover? That looks like that'll stop the bullets. I'm going to hide behind it. That allows us to create an opportunity for the player to make all these in-the-moment tactical decisions about, do I take time to reload this weapon? Should I switch to one that I have all ready to go? Should I try to take cover? Should I stop these Germans before they get to me? What if one of them has a grenade? The sort of the Sid Meier sounds like a weird thing to say, but the Sid Meier definition of a game, a series of interesting decisions, I think applies to an action game as well. You're making them a lot quicker, but Medal of Honor, I think, is at its best when it's that tactical relationship between you as the player and 2 or 3 or 4 bad guys. So that pace of having to make a whole bunch of decisions based on a constantly set of changing variables that you're affecting, and you're making decisions about, you had a chance to play it, depending on where you shoot a bad guy, they're going to react differently, and the caliber of the weapon you're using is going to affect them differently. How they're moving through the world. Hopefully you saw, we've invested a lot of time in like that stumble tech. So if a guy is in motion coming at you and you shoot them, they may, depending on if you're just using a low caliber weapon, they may keep coming at you and kind of regain their balance. So you're constantly having to make those decisions, and that's where the fun comes from. And so, yeah, do I throw a grenade? Do I try to take out this guy? Do I take cover? Do I switch my weapon? Do I go for a different position that will give me a tactical advantage? That's where Medal of Honor has shined, and on this platform with motion controls and the fidelity that we're able to build out the worlds, yeah, it takes it to a whole new level. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's funny. In a lot of other versions, other games that you guys have made, I've been less afraid to die. I think when you're in the shoes of a soldier, you're afraid to die. It led me to be more cautious at times.
Look, they're playing above and beyond, playing Medal of Honor above and beyond is a physical act, right? Even if you're sitting down and playing it, but hopefully you're up and on your feet. And so, so we'll have people play it, and they'll, 20 minutes later, it looks like they ran a 5K, right? It's, you put effort into it. Again, the physical movement, but it's also the adrenaline that gets going, because I can't remember if it's Google or whoever, did brain scans of people wearing a headset, and your brain processes VR images in a different part of the brain than if you're just watching a screen. It like processes your hippocampus as if it were real. So even though you're in a game, you're in a simulation, your body can't help but process it at an emotional level. And so yeah, that adrenaline gets going, and you are processing those images in a way that's different than when you're processing on a TV. And like we hinted at it in the trailer, but we have a couple of levels where you end up in the water and you're treading water, and sometimes you have to go under to avoid detection. And every time I play it, I involuntarily take a breath. I go, and I go on, even though I'm sitting there, in my office with a headset on. So that stuff's great, and that just that's what's great about the platform, is that just stuff naturally comes into it. So yeah, the adrenaline is going, and the way you can role play with this game is unlike any other game I've ever worked on.
And there's some little details in the game that really, I think, increased the sense of presence and immersion. One was when you can rip out the pin in a grenade with your teeth. And then also just the feeling of, the bolt action when each shot you better pull back to reload. I think I popped off 3 headshots in a row with that, and it just felt amazing because it felt better than a headshot in like a traditional flat screen game.
Well, you're not aiming across. You're not moving a crosshair around on a flat screen. You're aiming the weapon in 3D space. The bullet is going to leave the barrel of the weapon based on where you have it pointed, and it's a completely fundamental different way to interact with the world. And so, yeah, those when you're trying to take out neutralize some bad guys, when you're trying to shoot some bad Nazi dudes, yeah, the skill becomes a real factor. And again, how do you aim down the sights in VR? You aim down the sights, and especially if you're using like the Car 98 or something, that or the Springfield, where you take a shot and then you charge it again with the bolt. Yeah, it allows you to role play and immerse yourself and just maybe just a teeny tiny bit give you some idea of what it must have been like, and maybe ignite your imagination about what guys your age, men and women your age, were doing 70 years ago when this was really happening. It's not sci-fi, it's not fantasy, it's not zombies. This actually happened. This really happened. And, we never ever want to glorify war with Medal of Honor. What we do want to do is glorify and venerate the people who sacrificed and fought to defend real evil, the men and the women. And this, by giving you this level of immersion, it hopefully again gives you just a tiny, it's just a game, but hopefully gives you at least a tiny bit to help imagine what it must be like, and things like pulling the pin out with your teeth. That's super cool, but again, that becomes a tactical design opportunity as well. So we're always looking for those sorts of things that by the time you've played it for just even a few minutes, everything you think you should be able to do, you can do, because it's just based on natural motion and stuff. And again, it's all about getting you to empathize with the soldiers and the resistance fighters that were doing this for real back in the war.
Yeah, and I think another way that you folks are doing that is with the gallery. Can you talk a little bit about reaching out to some actual veterans and talking to them about the experiences?
Yeah, the gallery is a feature that dates back to the original Medal of Honor. So back on the PlayStation 1, we had a 320 by 240 NTSC, standard def sort of video player that would, after every mission, you got a little short 30-second documentary made up of archival footage about something you just did. So the mission where you scuttled a U-boat, you actually saw real German U-boats and what they looked like on the inside, and them diving and servicing and stuff like that, and VO, and it was and it was nice because it helped provide some context. Again, hit home that this really happened, but also sort of like when you see a movie or read a book about something, it's always kind of cool to see what the real thing looked like. And when it came time to do above and beyond, we're like, well, what can we how can we go above and beyond with the gallery? And we knew that it would be great to scan archival footage into 4K and make that look really good. And we started taking 360 cameras to battlefield locations. So we have 360 shots of Omaha Beach and places where the Battle of the Bulge took place. We took it to Peenemünde, where the V2 rockets were built and tested. Put it on the launch pad, so you can see all that, and that was cool as well. But then we thought the thing to really take it to that next level was if we could interview combat vets who were actually there. And the youngest combat vet from World War II is 93, 94 at this point. And we partnered with a fantastic organization called Honor Flight that brings combat vets to Washington, D.C. to visit the World War II Memorial. So we got to know them and start to work with them. We embedded on a couple of their flights, got to know some of the guys and started interviewing them. And one thing led to another, and after we had done some sit-down interviews with some of those guys and heard their stories, and it's a real privilege because sometimes they're sharing these stories for the first time. And believe me, it's like, I can tell you people at home, lights in your face and a microphone in your face and being asked questions, it's not easy. It's not fun. And they're better, all things considered, I'd rather be playing, unnamed Goose Game right now. Not that you guys aren't lovely, but it's a commitment to do an interview, and these guys, again, all in their 90s. I can't describe the privilege of them sharing these stories with us. And so it literally was, we were in a production meeting kind of talking about things, and the idea came up, God, wouldn't it be great if we could take some of these guys back to Europe, back to these places that they're talking about. And it was like, oh, how are we going to do that? That's crazy. We can't do that. And then it was one of those, it happens in game development and happened here. Like, you start talking about it. Well, if we were to do it, and long story short, we decided to ask them, and to a T, they all said yeah. And it became the adventure of a lifetime for all of us. And they got to bring their families with them. They brought their wives, their kids, their grandchildren, and they got to bring them back to these places where these seminal moments of their lives, when they were teenagers, when they were 18, 19, 20. And we were able to capture that all on film and meet the people that, and sometimes they got to interact with people that were there, 70 years ago as well. And so it ended up, we did a couple of these shoots, and Oculus, we loved them, Oculus loved them, and we decided to kind of go all in, and it's, really become almost a full-fledged documentary of these stories that's embedded in the game and weaved into the game itself. The stories we've been able to capture and tell are super powerful. You got to see the one today about one of the veterans who's graciously shared his stories with us about his experience, crashing in a glider on D-Day. And I gotta be careful talking about it because I'll sometimes choke up when I describe it, but it's just, it was such a privilege to be able to capture that and then now be able to share it with people. And again, this goes all the way back to the origin of the franchise, which, Spielberg created after he made Private Ryan. He came back from making Private Ryan, and he said, and Steven Spielberg is a genius, certifiable. I don't need to say that; the world knows that. But he had the foresight to know that, the number one form of entertainment in the future wasn't going to be movies or books or TV shows. It was going to be games. That games were going to become the dominant form of entertainment, and people get their information, for better for worse, through their entertainment. And so he's like, that is why Medal of Honor was created, because he wanted to tell the stories of World War II with future generations in a medium that he knew that they would be totally into. That's why Medal of Honor back in 1999 was a PlayStation game. And so to be able to, 20 years later, do this on Oculus and take it, again, part of the expression, above and beyond with these interviews and include this material, it's a dream come true. And we're hopefully living up to Steven's vision that he had 20 years ago about what we could do with a game, and to share these stories and to get it out to a much wider audience that maybe would never see it. And so that's probably the thing we're most proud of with the game.
Can you talk about returning to World War II and also choosing to do this in the VR platform at this time? Not every AAA studio is making VR games. So this is a big deal that not only are you bringing back the series, you're bringing back the series to World War II, and you're bringing it to VR. You talk about all of that and how this is kind of the right time for Respawn to do this.
Yeah, going back to World War II, it's bringing the franchise full circle, and the games that we worked on at the people at Respawn, that original set, Medal of Honor Underground, Medal of Honor Allied Assault, those were all set in World War II, and we thought that would be a great time to go back to, and it really is the roots of the franchise. Again, it's why Steven created it. He wanted to tell the stories of World War II, which and the echoes of World War II are louder than ever. Here in the 21st century, we're recording this interview in 2019. The echoes have never been louder from that conflict. So, using Medal of Honor to help illuminate and share some of those stories is what it's all about. Again, the goal is to make a fun game. Number 1, 2, and 3, the rules are fun. But that's how you get people in. And if you can just, if they come away with just a little bit, kind of sparking their, igniting their imagination, then hopefully we've done our job. As far as bringing it back for doing on VR, what a privilege. I mean, this is, the Rift with the motion controls is the greatest platform for FPS that human civilization has come up with. I mean, it really is. Again, you know, the things that take a lot of work to do right on a controller, leaning, ducking, reloading, throwing grenades, become natural human movements on this platform. The fact that your head is the camera, so wherever you want to look, that's where you look. Wherever you want to lean into or lean around, you just do it. So, you know, what better way to bring the franchise back and do it in a way that was special? And Oculus is an amazing partner. And when they approached us a couple, 2.5 years ago about doing this game, you know, our response was, well, that's great. We love we all had dev kits at the office, and we're all fans of it. But our response was, okay, it's great you want to do a AAA game on this platform, you know, but besides, you know, it's going to require a big budget and require a large team. The biggest thing is time. You know, making a game like this takes years, and that was the big thing. Like, hey, you guys realize this is, when all said and done, probably going to be about a 3-year effort from this conversation to when it actually ships. And they're like, we know. That's what we want. And it is such a privilege to be part of this next generation of software. Asgard's Wrath looks just insanely awesome. You know, the stuff they're doing with Vader. I mean, the Echo guys. I mean, the Lone Echo guys. There's such great stuff coming. It's so fun to be a part of that. It's a real privilege to be part of that, to help define what AAA on the platform means. So, the time has never been better, and it's one of those times where things just line up great. It's a labor of love for us. Oculus is super into it. They're a great partner. Everything from just the what we're doing with the narrative and the depth of the levels to the gallery stuff. You know, Oculus loved and got what we were trying to do there, so they're like, go, do even more. So that commitment to taking the time to do it right is the thing that you always hope for in a partner, and Oculus has been an amazing partner. So the time is now, the time is right. And yeah, it may feel like it's just, because we just announced it, but we've been working on this for 2.5 years. So it is such a joy to finally be able to talk about it and say that it's Medal of Honor and actually show it to people and let people play it. And right now as we're talking it, I think it's a 2.5 hour wait in line just to play the game. And that's, I got to tell you, that's great. That is so great for us to see, because until you put it in people's hands, you never know for sure. So that's been the best part of the show so far.